Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome on in to another live with me on Medical Talk in Layman's Terms with Nurse Charlene. And tonight's topic is a little somber, but tonight's topic is on the gallbladder. Does anybody know what that is? Okay, it's not common. I'm going to tell you what it is and everything and stuff. But I want you guys to welcome on in and stuff. I thank you for whoever gets on and everything and stuff. I do like to have interactions with people and stuff. So I hope that I can get a few people on so that they can, go back and forth with me. I'm currently, as the Nurse Charlene is dealing with life. And guess what? I'm dealing with that and my loved one, the gallbladder. So you see why I went ahead and got on and everything and stuff because this is important because everybody is not medically inclined. And so sometimes, when you get too much information, it could be at detriment to you. But sometimes if you don't have enough information, you won't know the questions to ask or what to look for, anything and stuff. And it's very important that we start knowing our bodies and then knowing how to navigate this healthcare system. It's not going to come to you and say, "Oh, okay, what you was thinking about? Okay, I'm going to go tell the doctors for you." No, you got to go tell the doctors for you, and everything. So the purpose of me getting on all the time and stuff is because I need you to help me help you help yourself, if that makes sense. And I'm just putting somebody on real quick and stuff. But in the meantime, you welcome on in. I love and thrive off of interaction, and it doesn't have to be always a question, but even a comment. Or maybe you've been through this and had your gallbladder removed or something like that and stuff. I welcome all that in because that one person that really needs this live tonight and stuff, they're not going to ask because they may be too shy. I'm shy. I'm getting on here, put myself out here too, and stuff. But I'm saying that to say that that one question that you may ask, they wanted to ask that and they didn't. But if you put it out there for them, at least it'll make them more comfortable. They'll read the comments and stuff and they'll, respond to it appropriately and everything. So, like I said, welcome in. So, before I get started and everything, I want to read my podcast disclaimer and stuff because that just helps me just keep on giving it to you, but also freeing me of any um, wrongdoings, which I'm doing the right doings and stuff. I've been a nurse for 21 years, consecutive years. That means 1 year after another. So I've seen things and I can't unsee most of the stuff that I've seen. So all of that, with all that being said, I'm just saying that I've been around, but I've been in the healthcare field since I was 19. And since I'm only 21, that's not been a long time. Okay. 21 plus 21 plus something else. But anyway, that's neither here nor there and stuff. But I've been around and I've paid my dues. That's what I was telling the nurses at the hospital where my loved one is at right now. So while they're doing their due diligence to get her to the good side, because guess what? Your body is a snitch, and she snitched on it. It gave her some symptoms, and she told them to me, and we went on to the hospital, and now she's gonna be okay because they it all connects. That's why I'm on here and everything. So let me read this podcast disclaimer, and then we could get on in and let's talk. Okay, so we got the podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. So informational, giving you information, and educational, educating you like this is what you should do at least or try. I'm not going to diagnose you. I don't know your, everything about you and stuff, but that's why I read this over and over because it helps me check myself. But also the podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your physician for any medical concerns. If you have questions about a medical condition, reach out to a qualified healthcare professional. Never disregard medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you heard on this podcast. I always put all podcasts, and stuff because we just don't know. Um, ain't that nice? I thought I turned off my ringer. Hey, girl, leave me alone. Oh, yeah. That's wonderful. Yeah. Why didn't go down? Okay, whatever. Okay. Sorry about that, y'all. Life keep life and stuff. So never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you heard on this podcast. Guest views are their own and may not reflect views of the host, that's me, or this podcast. The information shared is for general knowledge. It should not be used for any legal or medical purposes. I can't help with your lawsuit, but I hope you win. Okay. Also, consult with a licensed medical professional who knows your medical history for a meaningful evaluation. And always stay informed. Always be looking and stuff because you don't want to be in the not know. You want to be in the know and stuff. But always seek professional medical advice when it comes to your health. So just make sure that once you see something, a fad diet, whatever it might be and stuff, that you seek a medical professional's help, especially your doctor and stuff, because that's going to be your bread and butter. The doctor, he knows your history. He knows who had this and who had that in your family and stuff, that you might have been with this doctor for a while or something, because they got a study on you. And even if you have a new doctor, always remember that they got to go look at your old chart. So they'll contact your old doctor's office or whatever and find any information they can on you. And then I don't know if you've ever been in a doctor's office and they got you filling out this form and it'd be like, do you have this? Have you ever had TB? Have you ever had COVID? Have you ever had blah, 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 and stuff like that? That means something because they compile all that information, all those little check boxes, even if you check some wrong and stuff, because they're going to come back and ask you, and stuff. So it's important, and everything. Welcome on in, Auntie Josie. Good to see you here. Thank you, and stuff. And so definitely it's lighthearted tonight. I got a mixed feelings and everything and stuff about it, but definitely your nurse is on the job and everything. So behind me, this is creative because what I'm showing you is what they showed me in the hospital when they were explaining what was happening. And so I said, it's the gallbladder. So I'm going to give you definitions and everything so you'll find out what the gallbladder is and everything. Hello, Miss Brittany. Welcome on in. All right. So let me see. So I got my little trusty pen, Mike and Ike. But so right here, that's the liver. Everybody has a liver and stuff. It can get damaged and everything, but everybody has one. And you need it or you won't be here. Everybody has a stomach. So I tried to label them pretty good. And then everybody has, arteries and all the good stuff like that. Everybody has this little monster right here that they call the gallbladder. It's not a monster. It sure helps. It keeps you alive and keeps you digesting your food and everything. And remember, I did a couple of lives back. I did the gut. So this is a part of the gut, your gallbladder. So you see where I'm going with this, right? And stuff. And then we got a pancreas. Everybody has to have a pancreas or you might be blank out of luck, and stuff like that. You got to have your pancreas. But guess what? The pancreas is amazing because it's the part of your body that makes insulin. So if you had diabetes, that means the pancreas is not functioning at its full form. because of something like a diabetes or something like that and stuff. So we need our pancreas. That's the ringleader and stuff. But guess what? All this stuff is connected. This is your gut. This is just a different part of your gut and everything and stuff. So all that stuff is important. And then I got a little light on it right here, this little ring light and stuff, because it light up my face so I can look like an angel. No, but anyway, it says your body's a snitch. Believe it. That rings true every time. Your body is a snitch. And the reason why I'm doing this live is you'll find out in a minute and everything and stuff. But your body is a snitch. It tells on you. That's why you're in pain, because something hurts. But guess what? It doesn't just hurt for no reason. It hurts because maybe you stumped your toe, or maybe you got a headache. You don't get a headache for no reason. A headache is because either you're stressed out, either your blood pressure is too high, but it's always something. So it's not just, blah, and everything. So I'm going over to the other side. I did a blow up of the gallbladder right here. I did a blow up of it. So it's kind of shaped like that, like maybe two large grapes, one of those genetically modified grapes that I love so much. Okay, and stuff. And then these are what they call bile ducts, or different ducts and stuff, and they're all interconnected with your stomach, your intestines, your small intestines, your stomach, your liver, your pancreas. They're all a part of the same team. They're working to keep you alive, and stuff like that. So this, I opened it up. That's the bile duct, the gallbladder and stuff. So I opened it up. Guess what those are? Little roaches. No, no. I'm trying to keep it lighthearted and stuff because I'm already a little bit specially stressed. But in this little area, those are gallstones. And so I tried to make them, so that they stand out and stuff. I made the little polka dots and stuff. And that's what sometimes happens. We start collecting gallstones. And then after a while, one of them bad boys escape and go somewhere it ain't supposed to go. And then therefore we have other problems and stuff. But when you have a bunch of gallstones built up inside your gallbladder and stuff, they call it this thing. That's a big name for it and stuff. Don't worry about trying to figure it out. But it's called cholecystitis, which is the inflammation of your gallbladder, and it's caused by gallstones. These little things, they're not supposed to be there. They're bad, 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 and everything and stuff. So that's what that is. And then the purpose of the gallbladder. Okay, you asked me. Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, and that is, I'm gonna give you a little definition and everything. And another thing is, from time to time I have to pivot. I'm talking about respiratory, but then something just happened to one of my loved ones or one of my friends or something like that and stuff, and then I curve it over to that. Maybe they had an asthma attack, or maybe somebody got COVID again, or something like that, or whatever it might be and stuff like that. And so I have to pivot a little bit. So sometimes I'll have one syllabus laid out for what I'm going to teach on or talk about that night, any particular night and stuff. And then sometimes I'll sidebar and go to the other part. And that's because I want to give you the most up to date. And by it happening to me right now, like I'm in a process of dealing with this and stuff like that. Not me, myself, but my loved one, is in the process of dealing with this. It makes me more expert. So of course, if they tell me this, I'm going to study it, and stuff. And then I'm going to give it to you guys. You might can help somebody else, and everything. So I'm just going to speak on just the gallbladder. The gallbladder is a small pear-shaped organ located beneath the liver. So you see how I did that? Beneath the liver. The liver, this little triangle thing, and that's the gallbladder. And this is it enlarged. And this is it opened up with stones in it. So you see where I'm going. Okay. It stores and traits bile, which means that bile is in your stomach. And I don't know if anybody's ever thrown up and thrown up and thrown up because maybe they got the stomach flu or food poisoning or something like that. And after a while, there's no more food in your stomach. It's only a little pouch. It's not as big as you think it is and stuff, but it's a little pouch. And what happens is that that pouch, after it empties, it doesn't have anything else in it but bile. So then you start throwing up bile, and it's a bitter, bitter liquid and stuff. Oh, it tastes like poison, but it's actually something. It helps your body and everything. Hello, Miss Kathy. Welcome on in. Glad to see you come on and stuff. We're talking about the gallbladder and everything. So I said that it's a small pear-shaped organ located beneath the liver. It stores and concentrates bile and helps digest fat. So the bile is what digests our fatty foods, so that we don't get so sick, and stuff. Because as long as it's in working, the gallbladder is in working order, it's breaking that down, and then you poop it out. You have a stool, or the other word, layman's term, you poop it out, and stuff like that. There's disorders associated with when the gallbladder goes bad, for some reason or another. Maybe it got too many gallstones, like that one look like it's going to go bad, and you might need to remove it from a person, and stuff like that. So this is what it is. Disorders such as cholecystitis, which is inflammation of your gallbladder. The gallbladder is chole and stuff. And then it can significantly affect your digestive, properties, just overall, where you can't digest your food and stuff. It gets you real sick and stuff. And so it's a little bit mean. So I want to give you the definition, because this is after her body was snitching. Okay, it's my mom and stuff. So her body was snitching on her and stuff. And so she was giving me all these symptoms. So guess what I did? I'm a nurse. I am the hospital. No, I'm not. But anyway, she was nauseated, so I gave her medicine called Zofran, and it kind of cured the nausea. And then she had stomach pains, so I was rubbing her down. And guess where I was rubbing her? I was rubbing her with this aspirin, pain cream and stuff. And so she was giving me the rub, and she kept on. I first I thought she just had some back pain. So as she gave me the rub, she was going down by, you can kind of test your kidneys from the back. So I was like, Mom, are you peeing? And she said, yeah. I said, does it hurt? And she was like, no, and stuff. And I was like, hey, what's going on? Welcome in, Pastor Mayfield. Thank you for coming on in and stuff. So I'm asking her, Mom, so you're you're telling me to go. She told me to go on her right side, like kind of upper right side. And she said it hurts on her back, under her shoulder blade and everything and stuff. So it's a word for it and stuff, but I'm talking in layman's terms, so I don't want to get other people confused that don't know what that means. But it was the right upper quadrant, or RUQ and stuff. That's nursing talk and stuff. And what it means is it's right under, like, the right breast or chest area. And so, mind you, men have a gallbladder as well as women. So this is an equal opportunity jack up, and stuff like that. But right under your right chest or your right breast and stuff, and that upper quad, which is that part of your body and stuff, that's where the gallbladder and the liver and everything is located. And sometimes you could feel the pain in your back. So I'm rubbing her back down with aspirin cream. I got you, and stuff. And I'm rubbing that down and stuff. You nauseated? I got you. Oh, you dizzy? Oh, I got you with that too. I got you. Yeah. Was I healing it? Was I fixing the problem? No, but I was treating symptoms. Yes, Pastor Mayfield, I was treating symptoms. If somebody come to you and they, oh, my stomach hurt and stuff, oh, you might need the boo boo, or some, or what did you eat? it probably didn't agree with your stomach, so you don't just say, oh, I'm taking you to the hospital. You try to fix it. So I got some Alka-Seltzer or something like that, or I got some Pepto-Bismol and stuff. Here, take some of this, and boom, it's like, yeah. But I did do the right thing because I just kept watching her and stuff, and she just didn't look right. And before, she had some other symptoms. I'm not going to put everything out there and stuff, but she had some other symptoms and stuff like that. And I'm putting them together, and I'm looking at her, and I'm like, yeah, her body is a snitch. In the back of my mind, I'm like, her body really is a snitch, and she got a lot of stuff, she complained about heck of stuff, and I'm like, and stuff like that. And I'm putting it together, and I said, well, I guess I'll take you to the hospital. And she said, I guess you will. So instead of her saying, I ain't going to no hospital, you got some medicine in your room, Charlene, and stuff. She was like, I guess you will take me to the hospital. And guess what? She alive because I took her to the hospital because it was about to go down. It was about to go down. And guess what? I got family. They got gallbladders. I got a gallbladder, and stuff. You see what I'm saying? So the whole point of this and the whole point of me getting on doing this, for you guys and stuff is because of that situation right there. What if I just let her lay up and I went on about myself, parlaying, doing me, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't do nothing else. I gave her, here, go take this or whatever and stuff. You see where we would be, and stuff. Come to find out, it was 911 serious. I took her up to the hospital myself in my car when I should have been calling the ambulance even. But that's all right because she made it and stuff. So, yes, Pastor Mayfield, you said absolutely trying to figure out what's going on. Yes, of course, I'm thinking, like I asked her, about her kidneys. Are you peeing? What color is it and stuff like that. And at the time, it didn't work. Everything wasn't there yet and stuff, but it turned up. As soon as we got to the hospital, it turned up. It showed out. Welcome on in, Sonia. Thank you. She said, I did great. That's my sister and stuff. And we're going through it together with our mother and stuff. So, yes, this is just a topic. And guess what? The patient asked me to go on. She said, I'm going to be okay. You should go on your podcast and tell them about this. And why was she thinking about you guys? And she's hurting, she's in pain. She's in distress and everything. But I'm saying that to say that when I teach you about this is because it's happened to me or it's happened to somebody I love, or something like that. Or just so plain, you need to know. You need to know and stuff. So that's the whole point of it and stuff. So I'm going to cholecystitis. This is what they first suspected because she had all the hallmark signs of this. And that is an inflammation of your gallbladder. And the number one culprit is gallstones, but I'll get to that in a second. Cholecystitis is inflammation of the gallbladder, often due to gallstones blocking one of the ducts. You have these different ducts. I'll point some out. That's a duct. And they're all interconnected. You see what I'm saying? To in here, to your stomach, to your intestines, to your pancreas, to your liver. That's your liver and all of that stuff. So all this stuff is all connected. Okay, so Sonia says all of the medical staff said you did everything that you were supposed to. Thank you. Thank you. I love you. She said that you did everything that you were supposed to do, and it's such a blessing. I thank God. I thank God. That's why I'm on here giving it to you guys. It's not to play or joke around or have, and stuff. This is real serious. I try to joke a little bit because it helps keep it lighthearted and stuff. But y'all, I can't stress enough. It's hard. And when it hit home, and stuff. It's hitting home right now and stuff. And so definitely that and stuff. Thank you, Sonia. She said, teach and stuff. So getting back to the cholecystitis, it can be acute. So not cute like a cutie pie and stuff. Acute means right now. It just happened. That's how I rushed her to the hospital. Or it can be chronic. Over time, you having all these symptoms, but they kind of go away and hide for a minute, and then you come back with the symptoms, and then they kind of go away and they hide, and stuff like that. By the time they come back a few times and stuff, something might come back with it. I call it a demon, but they might call it cancer. They might call it anything, and stuff like that and stuff. So it's a big deal and stuff. Don't make your body fight to get your attention, because it will, and it'll beat you up and stuff. It'll beat me up too, because guess what? I'm the caregiver, huh? And it's mommy, right? And everything. And I'm on here, I'm nursey nurse, huh? Guess what happened? That's a hospital band, but it got my name on it. So what happened? I got stressed out and my whole neck just tensed up. Woo! I bet y'all told on it though. I took a minute. I wouldn't go down there for nothing in the world. Yes. Yes, Miss Kathy said God had you there for this reason, to let us know what to do. Thank you so much. Bless your heart. Thank you, Miss Kathy. That's wonderful and stuff. So I'm saying all that to say that I raised it, and I showed y'all the armband because your girl had to go down the ER while her mama upstairs and stuff. And then this is the messed up part. It didn't just hit me. My sister was about to go and get herself admitted too, to the hospital because she was having problems. Because this is stressful. That's why we got to know what to do. That's the whole point of, of doing all this stuff and stuff, is because it's stressful. Your family worry about you, but then, she worried about me. I'm worried about you, and stuff. We worried about and stuff like that. Yeah, Miss Josie said, let your mother know I will keep her in prayer. I accept all prayers, by the way, all prayers, and everything, all good vibes and everything else and stuff. Yes, I do accept those. And Miss Josie said, let your mother know I will keep her in prayer and have a speedy recovery. Amen. Thank you, Josie, and stuff. I will definitely let her know. And so also some symptoms of cholecystitis. Gallstones is the number one culprit of it and everything. These are, did I say symptoms? I meant to say causes first. And so causes are gallstones. That's the number one hallmark sign that your gallbladder is acting up and stuff, is you get gallstones and everything. So that's the stones I put right here. Those are stones inside your gallbladder, and stuff. That makes sense. Bile duct blockage. Remember, I said the bile ducts are these right here, and they get blocked. One of those stones dislodge like a clot dislodges and give you a stroke, and one of those stones dislodge and block up your whole biliary system and stuff, and it clogs up your duct, and then it can't secrete the proper bile to your body to digest, so that your body doesn't have to work so hard. So if you could keep your gallbladder, you should. But if it's giving you trouble and it's throwing off clots all the time and everything, then it's probably past its due date and it needs to come out. But then, like I said, that's another story. It's another animal, because then you got to change your whole lifestyle and how you eat. So yes, you could live without it, but once you live without it, it's not breaking down fat. So what do you have to break down fat? You gotta break it down by not eating fat. So that cuts out a whole bunch of food, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later and stuff. Okay, Miss Kathy says, sharing is caring. I'm praying for the whole family. Love you. And I love you too, Miss Kathy, and stuff. That's wonderful and stuff. Yes, I appreciate that and stuff. So another thing that causes gallbladder inflammation, or inflammation of the gallbladder, is tumors and stuff. And they could get in there and act up. Tumors mean some type of cancer type thing and stuff like that. But tumors could get out too and stuff. So guess what? they got ways to pull a tumor out and stuff. So just remember, it's not the end of the world and stuff, but you got to get there in time before it starts destroying stuff, and then it make its way down to somewhere else and acts a fool. You want to get it right now and stuff. And so that's why you got to listen to your body, listen to your loved one's body and stuff, because this the only way you're going to be able to get them to the good side, and everything. Also, trauma from surgeries and stuff, different surgeries and stuff can cause you to get uh, inflammation of your gallbladder. Any type of critical illnesses, they will get you that their causes of inflammation of your gallbladder. And then some of the risk factors: females over the age of 40, you're at higher risk. You just became high risk for getting gallstones, 40 and above. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't hit younger than that, because the lifestyles are definitely different. Anybody under 40, your lifestyle is definitely different, and stuff. Sometimes they drink more, and stuff like that. And this is men or women and stuff, but I'm saying you drink more, you drink heavy, you get that good liquor, and stuff like that and stuff. But these are reasons and stuff. And remember, your liver is down there by this gallbladder. It sits under it. It's connected to it. See, and stuff. Your stomach is there. Your intestines are there. Your pancreas is there. That's your glucose insulin maker and stuff, to fight off glucose, too much glucose. So if you could just imagine that, they're all interconnected. So you jack up one part, and then all the other parts go bad on you. It's like having a bad motor. The car, is everything gonna start going out, and stuff like that. So you gotta try to fix the problem. But guess what? If you silent and I ain't going to that doctor, they gonna give me a shot. And you want a shot, or you gonna get a shot at, I guess, heaven or hell. You can get a shot at your casket and stuff. So you see what I'm saying? It's serious. That's all I'm saying and stuff. Other risk factors. I said females over the age of 40, you're at risk. Okay, and then obesity, pregnancy, high fat diets. I got to have all my stuff fried. I like French fries, fry them in the best grease possible, vegetable oil and stuff, so I could die off faster and stuff. Diabetes. So if a person has a history of diabetes, this is just helping it along, and stuff, because it's always trying to pull off the pancreas to try to get to the good part and stuff. Then you got rapid weight loss. Now, this is one that I didn't catch on to and stuff, but actually the rapid weight loss, it goes across the board. Like if you got tuberculosis, you'll get a rapid weight loss, but it's a lot of different diseases that have this rapid weight loss. Watch that. Not just, oh, I lost me 20 pounds. Well, how did you do it? Was you dieting? Oh, you wasn't dieting and you lost 20 pounds. Yeah, that's a problem. You don't just magically lose it because I wishful thinking. If you lost that much weight, something ain't staying on. So that means that that's still a problem. Now, it might have helped you a little bit, but if you lost it and you wasn't trying to diet or something or bring it down, then that's a problem. But if you taking diet pills, then maybe they might have been the best ones for you and stuff. So that, and then a family history of gallstones. Know your family's history. Know what grandma had, grandpa had, father had, mother had, and stuff. Uncles had, aunties had, and stuff. Cousins, and stuff. We're still all related. That's your mother's brother or sister kids. You know what I'm saying? So we all got that bloodline running through us and stuff like that. So know your family's history of gallstones. And then also certain medications. And they said oral contraceptive, ladies. So that's your birth control pills and stuff, mainly, and stuff that you take and stuff can put you at risk for gallstones, but other troubles and stuff. And so I'm gonna stop there because I want to pivot to what ended up happening. So that was I want to do symptoms real quick. Let me see if I got those of having an inflamed or cholecystitis and everything. Oh, so Kathy, you said that's very true. That's right and stuff. Know your family's history. You got to know. They got some of the same blood. They might not have all your blood in them because that would make them your sister or something or your brother or something like that. But they have some of your DNA in them too, and stuff like that. You share the DNA from their from your mother and father and their mother and father, and stuff like that. So that's why that is definitely true and stuff. Thank you, Kathy, and stuff. So I want to give you signs and symptoms of gallbladder, and you're gonna be so shocked and stuff. But this is what I was treating at home and stuff because I'm a nurse. So I thought sometimes you just need to take them to the hospital and stuff. And guess what? The doctor's office was not gonna help me because what they gonna do? I go in there and tell them, and then they trying to compete with me over how much they know. I don't care how much you know. I want my mama fixed. Yeah, I don't care. You don't have to compete with me. I know that she tells you that I'm a nurse because she wants you to know that I understand, and she doesn't. And then I go home and break it down to her in layman's terms so that she understands. But in the first place, she said, "Tell my daughter she's a nurse, so you don't have to be trying to tell me the blah blah blah. Tell her it's cholecystitis. She know exactly what that is. She know that's a bladder, and stuff. She knows this is this and that, and and everything. So that's why she said that, not to brag like, oh, she a daughter and she know everything in the world. No, I don't, or I would have took her a long time ago. You see what I'm saying? So, okay. Symptoms of gallbladder inflammation: sudden and severe pain in the in the upper right center of the abdomen. So remember, I said right under that, for men, their chest, and stuff right there on the right side, above their stomach, and then also for the women, it's right under your breast, and stuff like that, in that right upper quadrant of your abdomen area and stuff on the front. But you could feel it through the back by your shoulder blades, which my mother was giving me to massage her with aspirin, and we didn't even know what it was. So I wasn't gonna know unless I took her to the hospital. They don't have the right equipment at the doctor's office or the urgent care. You got to go to the hospital, to the ER and stuff. So then going to the next one, nausea and vomiting. Don't sleep on it. If you're vomiting, that means your body is rejecting something, so it's coming out. It can't stay in there. It got to come out. So if it's doing that to you and stuff, that's a problem. It's snitching. Hello, snitching, snitching. Okay, fever and chills. Fever and chills. So when you have a fever, you can get so hot till it's cold blooded, if that makes sense. So when it says fever and chills, you can get so hot to where you reach up to 101, 102, which is the official legal temperature and stuff, or fever and stuff. And so when it gets so hot, you start getting cold. You start, ooh, yeah, you hot though. You know what I'm saying? If they take your temperature, you hot. So that's the difference. So you can't sleep. Hello, your body is snitching. Okay. Jaundice. You might have heard that on kids, like babies, when they come out the stomach and maybe there's a complication or something, and it's a yellowing of the skin and the whites of your eyes. They're not white. Like I hope my eyes are white, but anyway, they turn yellow and they look like they glow, even like a cat or something like that. You know how they got the yellow eyes and stuff like that. It gets real bad. There's a problem. Your body is snitching. Why would your skin turn yellow? For no reason? Why would your eyes, the white of your eyes, turn yellow? For no reason? Yeah, it's snitching. Okay. Bloating and indigestion. Guess what I did? I didn't take her to the hospital yet either for that. I got some because I be studied, I be looking up stuff. I had some of these little bloat pills, and they supposed to take the gas off your stomach. Guess what it did? It took the gas off her stomach. So problem solved, huh? And stuff. So that was that situation and stuff. So definitely, I'm telling you, I can't make this up and stuff. So bloating and indigestion. meaning that there's a problem. There's an inflammation of most likely your gallbladder. Also, pain after eating fatty meals or just any heavy food and stuff. You can't keep it, you can't even eat it all, but you can't keep it down. It's coming up. Those are hallmark signs. Your body is screaming, help me, help me. And guess what we do? Oh, you threw up? Well, drink you some water. Let's get you hydrated. Or some people just be like, okay, put a soda on it. Drink a ginger ale. It'll settle your stomach, huh? Yeah, it don't settle your stomach. It just give you soda. It's delicious, huh? Okay. All right. So then there's tests that they can do. And that's one of the things that happen with us. There's tests. First, actual physical exam where the doctor comes in and he will touch different parts of your body. And if you go, and stuff, oh, that might be a little something, and stuff. But he's practicing medicine. So he or she got to get to the good side. So they're going to press on that and they're going to look at that. And if it's hard, they're going to listen to it and everything with their stethoscope, and stuff like that. And they can hear certain things when they thump on it and tap on it and stuff. And that's when they know something is wrong in here. And so then they start calling for more tests now, blood tests. Your basic complete blood count, or what they call CBC. That's what they'll call it. And you might not know what that means at the time and stuff, but it's a complete blood count and stuff. And one of them is they count your white blood cells, or WBCs. You see where I'm going with this and stuff? And if they're elevated and they're not in their range and they're elevated, you have an infection. If they're too low and you don't have enough white blood cells and it's low, you have another condition and you might have an infection. So either way, you better be in that middle or you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be out of luck and stuff. So another blood test is a liver enzymes blood test. So they knew that when she said the certain areas of her body was hurting and stuff like that, they got the blood, but they ran it for a liver enzyme, and all of them were elevated. She was supposed to be like, I think 0.1 or something like that, 0.1 or something like that. She was a 5. Whatever that is, it's too high, period. It doesn't matter. It's too high and stuff. So could you imagine that, and stuff going on and stuff? And then also they they wanted her urine and stuff so that they could do some, check her creatinine and all these different lab, all this medical blah, 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 and stuff like that. But I took her to the bathroom. Her urine was tea colored. It was like an amber brown. Now, in, days before, yellow urine like anybody else. You look back. That's why I tell you always when you pee, just look back at your urine just to make sure it's kosher. You see something in there that ain't supposed to be in there, like cloudy, or it have a slight smell, you probably want to tell on it. It's snitching on you, and stuff. So that's where that comes from and stuff. So her urine was brown and stuff. So they already seen that the liver enzymes are high and stuff like that. And then the urine, they said it was dumping this thing called bilirubin. I'll get to that in a moment and everything and stuff. So that's why her pee was, orange, brown, like, and stuff, weird colored. It'll clear up and stuff because I got her there in time. Well, almost in time because she was hurting and stuff, but I got her there and stuff. So then there's imaging that you can do and stuff to make the diagnosis, and that would be a abdominal ultrasound. Everybody heard of that, where they got the little warm jelly. Well, I hope it's warm. That's nice to be warm and stuff. And they take that little machine and they go all over your stuff, and they can see it. You ain't gonna know what it is because I don't even know what it is and stuff. But I know when they're going back and forth, I know what they're looking at or looking for, and stuff. But yeah, I don't know all the ins and outs of it and stuff. But they do that. There's also a CT scan, and she had hers with contrast. It lit everything up. So they pushed this. IV contrast into her veins. It then shot around, with a couple heartbeats. It then shot around her whole body all the way to her toes and stuff. And then it lit up a problem area, where it was going down at and stuff. So that's good, because it lit it up and it told on it. So the contrast told on it from the CT contrast and stuff. It told on it and stuff. So if you can imagine that, so then the doctors got something to work with. They know what they're dealing with. They know that we got to do this, this, and this next, and then this, and this next, and stuff like that. I love it because you're getting to the bottom of it, and this is where they shine, because now they going in, they getting down, and stuff like that. So then also, they got a couple other ones. One is called a HIDA scan, and you won't know what it is, but if you've ever been through it and stuff, you might have heard that name. And then they have a MRI or MRCP. It's done in the same place as the MRI and stuff, but it's a slightly different test. But your MRI is one of your hitters. It takes slices of your whole body down to the lowest term, and stuff, and then shows the doctor everything, so they get to see layer after layer after layer. And the best one is when you get some contrast if you're not allergic. So you got to go through a whole thing with that and stuff. So it's a big deal and stuff. So then the treatment for it, for acute cholecystitis, is hospitalization, and she's been in the hospital for a few days. IV fluids and antibiotics, check. Pain control, check. Surgery, not checked, because it wasn't a gallstone blockage. So they said, I'm not pulling out nothing that's not broken. So that's respect. Hi, Sandra. Welcome on in. You said, hello, family. Sorry for my tardiness. No, you just come in, but watch the replay after and everything. But you made it on in, and we're right at the good parts. So definitely that. And you said, give Rosie some love for me. I will absolutely do that. And thank you. All right. And so that's all I want to go into on that one, because it turned out it wasn't that. But it had all the hallmark signs. She had all the symptoms and everything of that, except for the actual gallstone. They couldn't find them. Later, I was told by my other second nurse that in command that they did say it was some stones inside her gallbladder, but not to the point of them taking them out or removing her gallbladder. So it's still a situation and everything. So this is what really happened. It's called, what is a biliary duct obstruction? She has a biliary duct obstruction. And I told you the biliaries connect like the liver and the pancreas all together, and the small intestines and the stomach and all of that stuff is all interconnected and stuff. And it needs these freeways. You see, it go off to the left on 580, and then that's 880 over there, and so on and so forth. That needs to be open and running. So these fluids that secrete from the gallbladder drop down in there, and it needs to flow. When it's obstructed and it has a problem like this, where I put a block, that's a problem, because then it starts showing it as if it presents as this, and stuff like that. And so that's where that comes from. And so I'm going to read you the definition of that real quick. A bile duct obstruction is a blockage in your bile ducts. Bile is a digestive juice that breaks down fats. It also contains a waste product called bilirubin, a waste product called bilirubin. And your bile ducts are the tiny canals or these ducts. I'm not even going to say tiny canals. That's your little freeway. So this is your bile duct. And then it got, you could get off on Fruitvale, or you could keep on going and get off on Lakeshore Drive or whatever and stuff. That need to be open. It doesn't need to be traffic on the freeway. You know what I'm saying? In order to, they don't need no traffic. They need to just be able to perform, and stuff like that. So that's what that's happening. It's an obstruction So it's traffic. Now it's bumper to bumper, and it's backing up, and stuff. If that makes sense and stuff. So then I guess it flows from your liver. um, the juices are made in your liver and it flows into the gallbladder, and the gallbladder puts it inside of the small intestines to digest fatty foods so that you can break those down. And the small intestines, you eat your food. So I'll give you a quick little anatomy. You eat your food, you swallow it down, it goes in this thing called the esophagus or your food tube. It goes down that esophagus. That's why we get gastroesophageal reflux disease or GERD and stuff. So it flows in that food tube, the GERD tube, sometimes we'll call it and stuff. That drops down into your stomach. After you chew it up the best you can, it's better to chew more and have more teeth. But if you don't, you drop it down in there and it goes down in there. It just got to work harder. And then it drops it down into your stomach. Your stomach got all these digestive juices and blah 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 and stuff, and acid, and stuff, because that's why it's acid reflux, because sometimes that acid will jump up in that food tube and jack you up and stuff. But anyway, it eats it up and breaks it down the best it can, and then it sends it to the next place for processing. That will be your small intestine. So then it gets in your small intestine. Your small intestine is picking out, it's like they at D's or they at the Goodwill. It's picking out all that food and stuff, and it's grabbing this. Ooh, this got some vitamin A in it. Ooh, this got some vitamin C, and it's breaking down all of that stuff, and everything, and getting to the good part of that. And then that one, I'm skipping pieces, but I'm saying then it goes into your large intestine, which is your large intestine, and is interchangeable with your colon. So it goes in there, it breaks down stuff a little bit more and stuff, and gets it prepared to dump boo boo and stuff like that. So it's getting it prepared. It's taking the last of everything, dragging that last little stuff, and then forming a poop with all, a turd, with all that nasty stuff that we don't need. And then that's when it's supposed to go out, and then it goes to your rectum and your anus, which is your butt. And so when you sit down to have a stool or poo poo or boo boo, whatever you want to call it and stuff, when that dumps out, that was your body just processed whatever food you had, and it might push some other food that you had, before that down in there, and it makes its way on down the whole little train line, and it comes out as a turd, a boo boo and stuff like that. So I'm saying all of that to say that that's what literally happens when so where the pancreas and the gallbladder and all of that, right in that colon area, well, actually before the colon, in the small intestines area, before it even gets to the colon and stuff, it's connected, the gallbladder is connected to that intestine. So when the small intestine is not breaking down all the food, it got too much fatty foods and stuff like that, then that's where the gallbladder works its magic. It secretes this stuff called bile, and it breaks down that fat so that you don't have that much fat sitting in there. It kind of rinses it down and then breaks it down even further. So then by the time it gets to the large intestine and or colon interchangeably and stuff like that, that's where they said that it secretes this waste product called bilirubin. Guess what bilirubin is? It's fancy. It actually makes your poop brown. Yeah, it makes brown boo boo. It makes it the color brown. If there's an obstruction in the gallbladder and it can't secrete the bile that turns into bilirubin, which is a waste product and stuff, your boo boo is white or beige or vanilla. Yeah, it don't have no color. The bilirubin, if your body is correctly working and stuff, that turns your boo boo brown and stuff. That's how they can tell all these problems. If you poop and it's blood in it, it could either be, they call tarry stools, which is black and all of that stuff. So you see where all this stuff is coming from? Because it's your one body with all these parts in it, and it's doing this crazy thing and stuff like, oh, wow. It's amazing and stuff. So going back to bile duct blockage. Blockages in your bile ducts can slow or stop the flow of bile, which causes the bile to back up and collect into your liver. And therefore, now you got inflamed liver, angry liver. That's what the nurse told me, angry liver and stuff. And it poses serious health problems without treatment. So had she not went to the hospital and had treatment, it was about to go down. I'm just gonna say that that's about the closest I could get to um, shit happening. It was about to go down. Okay, so obstructions are the most common problem in your bile ducts. Is if it affects five in every 1,000 people, and they develop a gallstone, and it ends up leading to a or they develop a gallstone that ends up leading to a obstruction. So where the gallstone gets stuck in a straw, or that freeway 580 and 880 and 680 and stuff like that, and it clogs it up, and then they can't move the bile and all the juices that we need to digest to their proper spots. So they start backing up like a traffic jam, and then it's just bumper to bumper, and they don't know where to go. So it's going to start some problems. Yes, Pastor Carol, right, healthy, exactly, and stuff. So some symptoms of obstruction or a blockage, because I could say obstruction, but some people might not know what that is, or block. It's in the way. Yeah, that's what it is. It's called in the way and stuff. Is symptoms are similar to those with gallstones and stuff. That's why they thought it was a gallstone blockage until they couldn't find the gallstone and stuff. So it would be upper right abdominal pain. It'll be persistent, sometimes dull, but sometimes it'll turn up and get real sharp and everything and stuff. Then it's yellowing of your skin and the whites of your eyes. Remember, I told you about the eyes, the white part of your eyes turning yellow and start glowing like a cat or something. You'll notice it. It can't be missed and stuff. And then you get clay colored stools. Remember, I said beige, vanilla, white. Yeah, that's where that comes from. And dark pee. Did I say earlier? I said when I went to go get her urine sample and stuff, it was orange brown like some Lipton tea that the bag stayed in the water too long or something like that, just out of nowhere. So I caught it right at the good part and stuff. Told on it at the good part. It was telling on her, so I told on it. Okay, and stuff. And then fever and chills. You could get so hot till it's cold blooded, and stuff. That's why you feel cold, but it's really because you're too hot. Your temperature is not regulating correctly. Then you got nausea and vomiting. So nausea is the feeling of I feel like I got to throw up, and vomiting is actually throwing up, if that makes sense. And then itchy skin. So you might start getting little red dots. Yes. Pastor Mayfield said, yes, showing some type of infection. Yes, that's what it is. And everything. You don't get a fever and chills and nausea and vomiting for nothing. Itchy skin, little red bumps and stuff. That's from you scratching it. It's itching, and stuff. And then you break blood vessels and different things and stuff. Loss of appetite. I don't want to eat. I don't even like that. I don't like that. I don't want to eat. I don't want to eat. Yeah, that's a hallmark symptom. Your body is snitching. Okay. Unexplained weight loss. Remember I said, yeah, was you trying to you was taking the apple cider vinegar, you was taking Carcinia, Gambodia, or whatever that stuff is. You was say you on Ozempic. Oh, you ain't on nothing and you just lost 30 pounds. Yeah, you in trouble and stuff. You better go tell on it and stuff. It's not to be played with. Yes. And stuff. And then fatigue. I'm tired. I just let me sit down. I'm going to lay down. I just feel like, man, I ain't got no energy or nothing. I'm just, ooh, it's snitching. Yeah, you're not supposed to always have no energy. Like sometimes, Or maybe you did too much and you was too excited and all day and you tired, but it's not supposed to just stay there and and stuff. Yeah, tell on it, please. Tell. And make sure you're specific if you go into the doctor's office so they know what kind of tests to run on you. But if you got pain and stuff and you can't see inside, the doctor can't either. So they guessing like I was guessing, and stuff like that. Go to the hospital where they got a machine and stop worrying about a needle. A needle now or a casket later, and stuff. It's up to you, and stuff like that. I'm going to choose the needle every time, every single time. Okay. So, causes of bile duct blockage. It's in the way, blocked, and everything may lead to different obstructions like cancer. It could be pancreatic cancer, bile duct cancer, liver cancer, or some type of metastatic cancer. That means that if you already had like a cancer scare and it was in your breast, and then you see something like this happen to you, you want to go right in there and let them know everything because it could be cancerous. But guess what? People sleep on. You can still live even though you had cancer and stuff. If you catch it right at the early stages when it's still a baby and get rid of that baby, guess what? Then you got a new lease on life. But if you put it out, I ain't going to the doctor. They always doing this and stuff. I ain't going to no hospital and stuff. They be charging too much money and stuff. And I ain't doing that and I ain't doing that. And guess what? You at stage 4. But guess what? It's 0, 1, 2, 3, then 4. You see what I'm saying? So it's the difference. You got stage 0, and they might give you something quick and dirty and stuff. Stage 1, okay, watch it. Stage 2, come on now, it ain't snitch yet, and stuff like that. It ain't did nothing out of the ordinary. Stage 3, yeah, let's talk. Let's talk. You need some counseling. Stage 4, okay, did you get your burial suit together, or your burial dress together? Okay, you see what I'm saying? And stuff. It's that because it gets harder and harder. The higher the stage, the harder it gets. And so, yes, Pastor Mayfield said, yes, you have a better chance than not of catching it early. If you catch it early, you're going to whoop its AWS. Yeah, okay. And stuff. But if you catch it late because you put it on, I don't want to go. No, I got a baby shower to go to. Nope, I'm not going that day either. I need a day of rest. Yeah, you're gonna be rested in peace. Yeah, in perfect peace and stuff. So I'm saying that I'm joking slightly, but I'm saying that to say that come on, we gotta do better. We got to and stuff. So then going to what are complications of a bile duct obstruction. That's what my mom is facing right now and stuff. The obstruction can cause bile to build up in your liver. This can lead to severe inflammation and even life-threatening infections, meaning they had her on the antibiotics and they had to try a couple of antibiotics before they got the right one and stuff like that because they are life-threatening. So you got to get on it. Nothing is left to chance. It might have a I was told that if it was even any type of cancer, you have no pain with cancer. It's sneaky. A sneaky dog. Okay, a sneaky. That's why they got them shirts, F cancer and all of that stuff, because it's sneaky. And it'll sneak up on you like a vet, and stuff. And boom, you just sitting there like, what I do, Okay. And stuff. I just got to calm myself down because I'm like, this is so special and stuff like that. But the other things, is it can cause or lead to things like cirrhosis of the liver, which is liver cancer. And it's really hard to stay alive with liver cancer. And so we need our liver. We absolutely need it. And then this cancer is just sitting on there, trashing the spot, and stuff. It's just horrible and stuff. And then If bile gets stuck in parts of your duct near your gallbladder, you can get a bladder infection, a gallbladder infection, and that's what it looked it like and stuff. But it was all of it got infected, all of it got inflamed rather. So she has what they call an angry liver. And by the way, I got permission from my mother to talk about it and stuff. So just making sure I put that out there and stuff. But she had an angry liver, angry pancreas, angry gallbladder, angry ducts. So that means they're closing in, and stuff and squeezing in. And so after that straw kinks, then what happens? It can't go in and out, and go where it needs to go. So it's locked there. So it's gonna turn up right there. Okay, they ain't let me through. Okay, I'm gonna do something. Somebody gonna see me about something and stuff. So that's where that comes in. So last but not least, diagnosis and how's it diagnosed and everything. And some of the main things is like I told you earlier with the uh, gallbladder infection and gallstones and stuff is that CBC. So they can check your white blood cell count. They can check your hemoglobin and hematocrit and all these other different things and stuff and take care of them. Also the liver function test, they do liver enzyme tests, and if they're elevated, we know that we got an infection and there's some trouble and it's about to turn up. So how fast do we want to attack that? Immediately and stuff. And then you got your ultrasounds, you got your CT of the abdomen, and stuff with or without contrast. You got your MRIs. I said ultrasound and stuff. And then you got these, I'm going to say it one time, endoscopic retrograde choleangular pancreatic graphy. Yeah, ERCP. Please do not put that in your Rolodex, what I just tried to pronounce. But that's what it is. I just know it as ERCP. I never tried to pronounce it, but I see why now and stuff. I have to practice that. I'll come back on another live and let y'all know what that really means and stuff. Now, I told you the MRI, they do things like this HIDA scan. I'm not going to pronounce no more words tonight and stuff. It might get me stressed out. And stuff. And so they got a bunch of different things and stuff. So they ready. They ready to hit whatever. And so right now, as we speak, my mother is getting hit with whatever, and stuff. She getting to the good part and stuff. So management and treatment. So once they do all these things and get it all down to the good part and stuff, the main thing that we need to do is start changing the diets and stuff like that. You need to get plenty of exercise and stuff, eating nutritious meals. So you're gonna have to make a little selective nutrition changes and stuff like that. Not go perfect vegan and stuff. It takes time to get there, and you got to be a absolute gangster to get all the way there, unless you already been doing it your whole life and stuff. Because it's always something you're gonna want to crave that you can't have. Whether it's, if you're a strict vegan, you can't have cheese because it comes from a cow, and stuff like that. So you got to have fake cheese, tofu, you can't have meat because it comes from an animal. You can't have pork, definitely, because it comes from an animal, and stuff like that. So if you see where I'm getting with this, and then even some people can't even have certain kinds of fish because fish is actually an animal too, so it depends on their choices. But making healthier choices like getting that ground turkey, eating more poultry type items and stuff like that. If you're a meat eater and stuff, eating the safer things, the shellfish, and if you're not allergic and stuff like that. But you definitely got to balance everything out and stuff, and it's a whole bunch. And when I do my nutrition live, we'll probably talk about that, and I'll have a guest speaker on also that's vegan and stuff, so we'll get to that part and stuff. So the main thing is getting plenty of exercise. This is very important. And exercise means just walking. You don't even have to jog up and down the street and show everybody that you could sweat. You could just walk up and down the street and walk every day and stuff like that. So that's one. Eating the nutritional meals and stuff, that's number two, and making those things, cutting out as many fried foods as you can. Because if you use 7 days a week, you need to go down to 4 days a week, then 3 days a week, then 2 days a week, then every other week, and then get rid of it, and stuff like that. Fried foods. Start learning how to bake, start learning how to use the herbs and stuff. They got a lot of people out there, a lot of YouTube and all of that type of stuff that will get you to the good part of that. Sorry about that and stuff. And then also maintaining a healthy weight, not dropping it all and you don't know why you dropped it like it was hot, and stuff like that. But slowly but surely taking off a couple pounds and stuff. It ain't never hurt nobody if your body mass index is really high. If it's lower, then you might want to eat a little bit more nutrition and stuff to get you to the good part, because being too skinny or too thin is unhealthy, and being too big is unhealthy. So try to stay in the middle the best way you can, but take your time. Don't be hard on yourself and stuff. And then it also says, and this is not no measurement on me or nothing like that, but it does say avoiding alcohol or drinking alcohol, but only in moderation. Meaning, when you can, don't, and when you need to, you got to do what you got to do. Okay. So now that all of that is done and stuff, the other thing is, you have joined my podcast. Everybody that's on, and watching and everything, you have joined my podcast and everything and stuff. So now that you're seeing this, you can't unsee it. So now you've been selected to sit up there and be the advocate for your family. People that don't know anything about medical, you watched it. Now you're in, and stuff. You're jumped in and stuff. So that means that you need to be able to spot this stuff and know that this ain't no joke. Like, I didn't come up with this like perfectly. I mean, I did start saying your body is a snitch, but I didn't come up with it perfectly. It was from years of seeing people come in and it's too late, if that makes sense. Seeing patients come in and it's too late. I'm getting them when they're already, making funeral arrangements and stuff like that. And it's unfair. It's unfair to you. It's unfair to your family. It's unfair to the nurses and everybody and doctors trying to take care of you, because they're like, how did you get this far past where you're ready to die almost, and stuff like that. Where, and stuff. Sometimes you can't help it. And so this is no pun intended on people that have other things like autoimmune diseases and different things and stuff like that. They've been dealing with an underlying. So at least we know that happened. And so therefore, you're coming in, and complaining about this or that and stuff like that. But if you're totally healthy and then all of a sudden your body starts breaking down and you like, I just need to exercise more or something like that. No, you need to tell on it. You tell, snitch, whatever, do it, and stuff, because that's how we get to the good part. That's how we get to the part where I say that you can be all right, no matter what it is, no matter how painful, how bad the diagnosis is. If you catch it in time and give them every bit of information. Sometimes I give too much, and that's why I got a talk show, a podcast, and stuff, because I give a lot of information and stuff like that. And you either take it or you leave it, but everybody ain't giving it up and stuff. So you probably want somebody like me on your team to talk to you and to tell you that and stuff. So now that you're on here, like I said, you've been jumped in. So now you got to be responsible for yourself, and you got to be responsible for people that can't fight for themselves and stuff, if that makes sense and stuff. So with all of that being said, I hope this helped. I'm about to get off of here and go see my mama at the hospital and stuff. I accept all prayers and all goodwill and good vibes and everything and stuff. And I know you guys love her and stuff like that, and I appreciate that. And definitely between me and it's another young lady named Sonia was on here and stuff. And yeah, we're gonna get up there and take care of our mother. And this is another thing I want to just point out. When you get to the hospital, those nurses are stressed the smell out and stuff. So when you're getting in there and stuff, it's all good to remind them, my mother needs this, my mother needs that, or my father needs this, or my uncle, or my child, or whatever and stuff like that. But try this. Going in there, yes, I have a little medical experience and stuff. I'm not trying to be here to diagnose, but I know that this is happening and everything and stuff. I know that we need to calm this person's pain medicine down, my family member, my loved one's pain medicine. She needs it, or he needs it, or they need it, or whatever and stuff like that. And to always be there to help, so that they don't feel like you're jumping on them. Why is this? Because I had this, I never ever forget it. 21 years of nursing, I had a young lady. I was taking care of grandma, just perfect, and stuff like that. As perfect as you could get, and stuff. And I'm loving on her and, reading to her. I'm explaining all her medicines. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and everything and stuff. And then the young lady came in, which was her granddaughter that she lives at home with and stuff. And she came in, she had a little sweet thing with her boyfriend or whatever, loved one or whatever he might have been and stuff. And so she decided that she picked Nurse Allen to go off on. So she said, you ain't even been in here. Something she had said, and I had a rough moment and stuff like that. But of course, I'm not gonna tell her, girl, I was in number 62, and this was and so I ain't gonna say that to her and stuff. So I said, I understand, ma'am. Somebody was supposed to come in here and see you and everything and stuff. That didn't happen. I do apologize and stuff, and whatever happened and stuff. Then she went over to the whiteboard, because you got a whiteboard, and the doctor and the nurses, they all write down the information, who's the nurse for that shift and all of that good stuff on there and stuff. And you could leave even messages on there. Long story short, she saw down at the bottom, it was a couple little precautions. And one of them was she walked over there and she needed to tell me off. And I was like, yeah, I didn't come here for that. I'm being a nurse. I'm doing nursing stuff. But it happened. And so what she did was she said, it say right here, why my grandmother ain't had no bowel movement in 73 days. And I looked at her and I was like, oh God. Yeah, Jesus, help me. Please, Jesus, help me. Because she was wrong. If she had not had a bowel movement in 73 days, she was already dead before she came in. See? Yeah, you got to eliminate. So it ain't nobody on the history of this face of this earth. Hold on. In the history of this earth that ain't had no bowel movement in 73 days. So what was on that board? Something for the nurses, which they need to stop doing that and stuff, because guess what? She was going to tell me about myself and why her grandmother didn't have a bowel movement. Okay, go ahead, Britt. In 73 days and stuff. Guess what it was? If no bowel movement, so she knew it said BM, which is bowel movement, and greater than 3 days, called the MD. So the moral of the story was it was a greater than sign that looked like 7, I guess, to her. You see what I'm saying? So be kind to the nurses, because she asked that they get another more competent nurse than me. And yeah, nobody was good enough. And she was wrong. So the moral of the story is that we just need to be kind, and we need to walk in here and just be informed, so that we are in the know and that we can take care of our family members and not cause a friction in their health care. because then nobody wants to see it. You better stop. All right, you guys. Thank you for staying on this extra time and everything. But it was a very special moment for me and stuff. And so I'm gonna get on out of here. And remember, your body is a snitch. Believe it. Thank you for tuning in. Yes.